Hello, everybody. This is Carl White broadcasting from the secret headquarters here at the Mortgage Marketing Animals /Freedom Club. And you are listening to Loan Officer Freedom, #1 podcast in the world today for loan officers, because you knew that one day it all led up to me and Steve Kiles, my main man here in the studio. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. The #1 podcast.
Well, I only say that because I'm really number 2 to yours.
No.
Yeah.
Which is a funny way we met. So
That is how we met.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here with one of my partners, Steve Kiles, the host of
Loan Officer Leadership Podcast.
Yep. So anyway, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about the sneaky tricks of doing a podcast. We're going to talk about how easy it is, the results, big mistakes that we've seen people make, and whatever else we come up with.
Absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
and what a great episode. You and I were just sitting here this morning talking about, wow, the power of a podcast. And here's the cool thing, Carl, anyone can do it.
You know, I think a lot of people think it's a real complicated thing,
Yeah.
or it's a high level skill. And really, it's not a high level skill. It's just a couple sneaky tricks,
That's
really.
it.
And I don't know if sneaky tricks is the right word, because like one little sneaky trick of a podcast is actually how people consume it. So when you give information, you know, you want people to consume it, your target audience. So we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. But on a podcast here, like on a let's say a Facebook video, or a TikTok video,
Which everybody talks about.
which everybody talks about. How long do you think the average, and I know you know the answer to this, how long is the average video watched on TikTok or Facebook?
Well, I'm going to let the audience think about it real quick, because you and I know the answer.
Yeah.
It's shocking, because you hear all of the people saying you've got to do videos, you've got to do social.
And I think that's okay thing to do.
It is for awareness. But if you're looking for somebody to consume your content, the average video is consumed only 17 seconds.
17 seconds.
17 seconds.
So you've got 17 seconds to make an impression, a call to action, and to get them to want to talk to you.
That's it.
17 seconds is going to be tough.
There's a lot of skill in that.
Yeah. Now get this though.
So tell me about podcasting.
The average time somebody listened to a podcast is the episode. So whether that episode was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, Joe Rogan's podcast is like a couple hours sometimes, like literally. The average length of time somebody will listen to a podcast is the entire episode. So you've got the entire episode.
Wow.
To indoctrinate them into your evil scheme.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that obviously tongue in cheek. You got an entire episode to connect with your people. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's way easier to do it in about 30 minutes for me than 17 seconds. I'm not good looking enough that 17 seconds works for me. So it might work for you, Steve, but 17 seconds, it's not effective for me.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
it's not effective for me. So I think doing podcasts is a very good way to get people to know you. And it's not necessarily that once they listen to your episode of the podcast, they call you up and go, "My God, I heard your podcast. I want you to do on my loans." But what'll happen is that when you do call them up, or they get your pre-approval letter, or you see them at the title company, or they're the listing agent on a deal that you're doing, and you want to get more deals from that person, you become like a local celebrity doing the podcast,
100%.
and not for 17 seconds, but for the entire time they're listening to the episode. So what we're going to be talking about here is you as a loan officer doing podcast, and how do you get loans for it? Let's talk about the target. You know what? Let's get some big basics out of the way first.
Go to the top.
Let's talk about technology here just for a second. So,
hey, well, first off, before we go into technology, let me explain why it's important podcasting. Because I think about this, Carl, there's such a low barrier of entry. It doesn't cost hardly anything to get started. And in most cases, you could literally do it with a phone.
Yeah.
Second thing is it's super easy to learn. And so it's not it didn't take me months and a year to figure it out. And literally the quick start rate is immediately.
Yeah.
You could start a podcast literally right now and be live within 24 hours.
Yeah, because like I
So
mean,
easy. Everybody can do it.
yeah, because like so what we're using right now is we're recording this on a Zoom meeting.
Super easy.
That's where I do all my podcasts. You
Same
too?
here. Every
Always.
podcast is on a Zoom. And then we use
And you're just recording the Zoom meeting.
I just hit record. So it's just me in Zoom.
Yep.
And I hit record. And if I've got a guest, they zoom in
Yep.
and we hit the record button.
Now this time, and those watching us on the YouTube channel, we're sitting here in the same room.
We are.
98% of the time when you and I do a podcast together.
You're in Florida. I'm in Houston.
And it sounds about the same.
It does.
Right. It sounds about the same. So we record on Zoom.
Yep.
I don't know what Zoom costs us per month,
$50.
but it's $50 a month.
Yeah.
So we record on Zoom. I do use an external microphone.
You do.
So I've seen people, they use like their laptop microphone.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay to get started. I don't want you to wait to get started. I think that's okay. Sometimes and we're in a very hollow room now. We're in my kitchen, which is a larger than average room for sure. And so it's got a bit of an echo because it's got tile floor and there's no carpet or anything. We used to have shag carpet in here, but just last week we got rid of it. We got rid of it. That green shag carpet. Yeah, it was so classy. So anyway, so it's a bit of a hollow room. It's kind of echoey in here, and I don't know what it's going to sound like on the recording, but my guess is it's not going to sound echoey. And so I recommend having an external microphone.
Yep.
And Audio Technica makes some great little microphones. What's that one? Not Snowball. What's that one? A Yeti.
Yeti. Yeah.
Yeti. So
under $100.
Yeah. YETI. YETI. You go on Amazon.
Yeah.
Get a Yeti microphone. It looks like a snow cone.
Yep.
You know, kind of thing, an ice cream cone. You know, kind of thing with an ice cream on top. That's sort of what it looks like. And I think they're actually more than 100. I think they're like 120 these days, something like that.
You can get a great mic for $50.
No question.
So
and
just
like,
read the reviews, and all you have to literally do is plug it up. And in Zoom, you click on a button. It says, "What mic do you want to use?"
I want to use this
whatever the one's connected to.
That's right. And I've seen people wear the headsets
you
too.
can do the headsets too.
So likely you already have like a headset for your computer. So and that's it. That's the entire.
And if you don't, just use your computer recording for now. And as you get more proficient, add the mic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
So
don't let there be anything that stops you.
Yeah. Let's talk for a few minutes about. So we talked about the low cost to start, which is
almost nothing.
$50 for Zoom.
You don't even have to. You've already got Zoom.
And $50 for a microphone.
That's it.
Right. That's it. So we talked about the equipment. Who is your audience?
Hey, can I say one thing? Because I don't think we have it on here, but
not.
Absolutely not. One of the things I would encourage you to commit to a timeline. Like if you're going to start a podcast, say, you know what, I'm going to do when I get started, and this is our third year to do it for me personally, which has just changed the trajectory of my life. It's how you and I met.
That's exactly.
And what's interesting is here's what I did. I just said, you know what? I believe this will help me gain influence in the market. It'll let me help people get better. I didn't fully understand the importance and the results. What we're going to talk to you about right now, Carl and I've learned over the last 3 to 5, and Carl maybe even longer. But what happened was you got to set a timeline. And I just said, whatever it takes for 1 year, I'm going to do 1 episode a week. And the first ones, they were awful. I mean, the quality, the audio.
Yeah.
This is Steve, and I'm talking to you. It was just awful. But what happened was you just got a little bit better every week, and staying committed for a year meant there were days I'd run into a Friday and it's like, I don't have an episode. Oh my gosh, I got to sit my butt down and record a quick episode. It was the consistency of doing it over time with a commitment and accountability, which kept us going. So be committed, do it 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and you'll see results. So commit to a timeline.
Yeah.
All right.
And just start doing it. All right.
Okay, go.
So let's talk about our audience for a little bit. So for me, as a loan officer, in my case, I'm a branch manager. As a loan officer, I would pick my audience as not the consumer, not the actual home buyer. But here's the thing. They're interested in what you're talking about when they're buying a home. And then the other 95% of the time of their life, they're not interested in what you're talking about. So I'd rather go to the referral partners. And typically when I'm thinking about that, the real estate agent. I want to do a podcast to real estate agents. And because they're interested in my topic all the time, and they're talking with people that I want to talk to
all the time.
Yep. And those are the people that can refer to me. So when I give a call to action, more real estate agents can refer to me than consumer direct. And again, if I do it consumer direct, when we start to advertise our podcast, like with Facebook ads and things like that, if you're going to consumer direct, man, you're in for hard. I don't do it. I'll just tell you, I'm supposed to say, well, you can try that, but don't even try that. It's not going to work. Send it out to real estate agents. I just think that's so much of a better audience, and they also make great guests.
Yes.
And so for me, when we talk about, like, what do I talk about on the podcast? I would find top producing agents, call them up, introduce myself, and tell them you want to interview them on your podcast. So it's kind of like saying, which I did this for a while. I did this for probably 3 years.
Yeah.
I had a local radio show. Did I ever tell you about that? So I did. I had a local radio show on a regular broadcast radio station, and it was Saturday morning, and I interviewed real estate agents.
Wow.
Now, I have to tell you, I never once had a consumer call me up. I heard your show. I'd like to do your loan. But let me tell you something. The real estate agent felt like a celebrity.
Yeah.
They come to the radio station. We put them on the headphones. They're sitting in front of this fancy dancy mic, and it's a little studio, and I'm asking them real estate questions, and they're feeling important. I'd get a copy of it. This is back then. I would burn them a copy of it, and I'd give it to them so they could broadcast it out, right, and make them feel special. I was interviewed on a radio show. We'd do photo pictures of them in front of the mic and the headset. And so they felt really special. And I'd get referrals from those people.
100%.
Right. So, and so on a podcast, I would interview real estate agents, and I would just ask them questions about their success. How'd you get started? What do what's your favorite part? What's your least favorite part? What does your team look like? If you're just getting started in real estate, what advice would you give to a new agent? What do you wish you would have known? What's the one thing you do that you wish you didn't have to do anymore? Just
be curious.
About
their success.
And you'll find that these agents, these top producing agents, are giddy to give the information about what made them successful. And so so other real estate agents want to listen to it because it's really good stuff that you're asking them. And the other thing it does is these top producing agents that you're interviewing, all the agents in the county know them. And so it'd kind of be like, Steve, if I don't know you, but I see you interview Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank. I see you interview Oprah, one of my favorite people. I see you interview, I don't know, insert in, Michael Jordan.
My stature already grows because I'm the one interviewing.
Like, who is this dude that attracts all these people? Like, you look at Jimmy Fallon. He became famous by interviewing famous people. And so you become famous. Like, people go, well, gosh, top agent, Lisa's hanging out with Steve, and top agent Bob's hanging out with Steve, and top agent Terry's hanging out with Steve. I want to hang out with Steve too. And so it's you
become attractional.
You do.
Not just trying to go get business. People become attracted to
you. And you didn't come up with any content. You simply ask questions.
Great questions.
Just ask great questions. Curious questions. So
I love it.
I find that to be incredibly powerful. And if you, all right, so let's ask another question. Do you have guests, or do you do them so? And not that you have to choose one or the other, but let's talk about the advantage of having a guest, and let's talk about, do I do them solo? Because you and I both do guests, and we both do solo.
Well, my first thought is both and. And getting started, it depends on what you're the most comfortable with. What this podcast would be utilized to get agents. Well, how do you attract agents? You get them as guests, because they'll share it with their influence. You share it with your influence, and we're going to talk about it. But then you can run targeted Facebook ads to qualified agents in that market to broadcast it. So I like it for the purpose of interviewing agents. And then if you feel like you got something to say, throw it out there. But really, the strategic value is agent relationships.
The agent that I'm interviewing.
I want their business.
Even if nobody ever listened to the podcast.
Didn't even matter
because you made that person feel like a celebrity. Same thing with a radio station. Hell, they might not even have an antenna in the back of that station, right? We're just talking to a microphone with headphones with this fancy looking stuff that might have been prop sets, It's actually a cardboard box, not a transmitter. I really don't care.
No,
because it's about the person that's sitting there in front.
And you've got literally, depending on if you do it face to face on Zoom, face to face, of course, would be preferable. But if you're in a bigger market, like I'm in a metro market that's massive, so Zoom is adequate, in my opinion,
Absolutely.
because you're building the relationship. You do a little bit of talk and relationship before you go on. You do the podcast, you do it well, ask great questions. They're always impressed at the end.
Yeah.
And they're grateful and thankful. Well, then you do the follow-up. Hey, listen, I'm going to get all this put together so we can push it out to our social media channels or however we do it. And so I'm going to circle back around with you on Friday. Let's go back over what the next steps are.
Yeah.
And then what your goal is to build an authentic, meaningful relationship.
And start asking for the business.
That's it, immediately.
Yeah.
Because if you'll find there's a connection, it's just a very cool influencer way
Mhm.
to get into the business.
And people are interested in people that are interested in them.
100%.
And so when you're asking these questions, that makes them, I'll never forget this. I went to a meeting with a real estate agent and a high producer,
Yeah.
super nice guy.
Yeah.
And I asked him like a question. And man, he was off. Like he's off to the races.
Like, whoa, dude, hold on, breathe. Did he
Yeah,
breathe?
yeah, I never saw him take a breath. I mean, this guy, I thought he was a whale had a blowhole in the back of his neck because he never took a breath. And he talked literally, this is no exaggeration.
The entire time.
He probably monologued literally for about 20 minutes.
Whew.
Like literally. And I'd go, huh. Wow. Okay. That was it. So he did that literally for about 20 minutes. And then I think I asked him something else. He went on for another like 8 minutes. And that was the end of our time, right? So
Wow.
And so when I did my close on him, he said, you know what, Carl, I really like you. You're absolutely fascinating. I said nothing about me. He told me I was fascinating because I was fascinated in him.
Mhm.
By the way, I really was. So
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah,
top
yeah.
producing. So this is
Yeah.
not a manipulative,
Sure.
uncool thing. I really was interested in him. He really is amazing. He really is excellent. And frankly, he dropped a lot of
Great
good
thoughts. Yeah.
content on
Yeah.
me in that 20-minute monologue.
Yeah.
But the point is, you don't have to come up with the content. Your guest will come up with the content. And then when you give them that honor of being your host, at the end of that, say, hey, Steve, man, I really, after the recorder's off,
Yeah.
Steve, this was a lot of fun, man. That was a great interview. Gosh, it's easy to see why you're so successful. Brother, obviously I'm a loan officer. You knew that, when I interviewed. Man, are you currently working with anybody I can help you with? I'd love to be a part of what you're doing, man. Could I help you? You have anybody I can help you with? Yes. Awesome. Who is it? No. Totally cool. Hey man, is it okay if I follow up with you on time to time to see if you are working with somebody I can help you with? I'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Like just a nice, simple thing. And then, but he's going to get that episode of that podcast. You're going to give him the link to it and he's going to broadcast it out. Because he's proud of it, right? He's going to broadcast it out and tell all his friends, all his real estate friends and his database, about being on your podcast. And so more and more and more people get to know you. So just briefly, I recorded the podcast. I got my guest. I recorded the podcast. How do people actually listen to it? Like, where do I go from I recorded it till it's up on iTunes?
Great question. Hey, well, the one we use is Libsyn. Libsyn's probably $50 a month.
Okay.
So there you can go to any podcast hosting site. We use Libsyn.
Okay. Yep.
Like there's I'm trying to think, there's one called Anchor. There's
I just
Libsyn.
give one. I don't want to go. So
Libsyn.
Libsyn.
Yeah.
And so what happens? So I go, I got my recording.
And listen, it's probably $50 a month. You might even be able to get it for less than that.
Okay.
And then all you do when you log in, it says upload your recording. So I upload the recording and it says, give me a description. You put your description in and then it asks for, it'd probably take you 10 minutes. Description, title. You can add any kind of @ for metadata or tagging, and then you hit upload. And then what it does is it pushes it through all the channels. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere they consume content.
You get your own iHeart radio station.
100%.
So if you go on iHeart Radio and
you don't even have to do it. They syndicate it for you.
Yeah.
So, and that's it's really inexpensive. And so Libsyn's a great one. It's really served us well.
So I it's something like 20 different. Like when I uploaded into Libsyn,
it hits them all.
Yeah, about 20
even
different,
Amazon,
like Amazon,
all
iTunes, Stitcher, all these, and so it blasts out automatically. How does it do it? I don't know. I pay the $50.
Yeah,
I upload it, push send, boom, I've got a.
Hey,
I've got
now we'll tell
iTunes.
you that if like some of them, Apple requires an approval process, but they push all that through for you.
Yeah.
So it may take a week. Sometimes I've had where it took 2 weeks, but I wouldn't even worry about it because there's all the other channels it'll push straight through.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it.
And
Super
just-
simple.
I'm going to give a shameless plug
Yeah,
here.
do it.
Not to be shameless, but or to be a plug, but it
Yeah.
is a shameless plug. That if you're a member of the Mortgage Marketing Animals of Freedom Club,
Big piece of it.
I've
Yeah.
got myself and Nina went in there and
Yeah.
recorded exactly how to do it. So I
The
talked
step by
about,
step.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. So I talked about the things I kind of like what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And then Nina talked about the Libsyn and how do you like the how do you push the buttons and
Yeah.
click and edit and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Which, by the way, we don't edit mine.
I don't either.
Yeah. If I flub up, it's okay because I want it to sound natural. I'm not trying to sound like ESPN or
Yeah.
Fox News or
Yeah.
CNN.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to stutter sometimes. I hate sometimes. And I think all that's okay. The only time I would edit if I have a guest that drops an F-bomb kind of thing.
Mhm.
I do believe in keeping mine rated PG.
Yeah.
I have people tell me that they listen while they're taking their kids to school. And so I'm very conscientious of that. And so for me,
I'm a
when
big fan of that.
yeah, I am. I was listening to one the other day and it was like,
I was too.
whatever.
And I had all three of my kids in the car, and the guy was dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, it's
and I finally had to turn it off. And I hate it because it was great content.
Yeah.
But I got my 10, 7, and 5-year-old listening
Yeah.
to a podcast
Yeah.
with me while we're driving.
Yeah. And you anyway, I'm just not a big
Yeah,
fan of that.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, if it's a bunch of guys and girls,
Hmm.
hanging around the campfire and you talk how you talk, whatever. But when you're broadcasting out, be classy.
Yep.
Right. Just kind of class it up a little bit. So anyway,
Hey, and let me say something about that too. All you got to do is intro it. Don't edit. See, the more you have to edit, Carl, the more complicated it gets. It
Yeah.
adds a barrier of execution.
It's just not necessary.
No, just, hey, it's Steve with X so-and-so podcast. I got my guest with me today. Today, we're going to be talking about X.
Which
that's it.
which reminds me, there's an old formula at the beginning.
Yeah.
Tell them what you're going to tell them,
Yep.
and then
Tell
tell
them.
them, and
And
then
then tell them what you told them.
tell them what you told them at the end.
That's it. That's a great formula.
That's a great formula for doing any
Yeah.
kind of presentation. So
Hey,
How
and
do you-
also make sure that you honor your guest. I was thinking about that formula we did earlier for when you're meeting with an agent. This really applies. It is what I'm doing is I'm going to set expectations. So I'm going to make sure the agent knows how long the podcast is. Hey, the podcast typically run 18 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
But then in the podcast, what I want to do is I want to honor them on the podcast. Hey,
Right.
Carl, man, you're doing such great things. We wanted to get you on the podcast
Mhm.
because
you're
so,
amazing.
yeah, don't forget to honor them, and then just be curious, and then at the end, close for whatever your commitment is. I really believe you got to have a call to action at the end of what you're doing.
Always have a call to
So
action.
we're talking call to action. I know we're moving around our questions, but what would yours be for agents? I'd love to hear that.
Hey, my call to action is always
Yeah.
if you're looking, so I would say, hey, Realtor Steve. So here's how I do it. So
Yeah.
this is one of my sneaky tricks.
Okay.
All right. So I do have a sneaky trick.
Let's do it.
All right. So here's my sneaky trick. So I'm interviewing you on the podcast and I'd go, all right, Steve, hey, thanks a lot, man. Great having you on. Great information.
Would you do a call to action on the podcast?
Wait,
Okay.
so I'm telling you my sneaky trick here. Okay.
Are we
Okay.
on air or not?
No, we're on air.
Okay. That's what I'm
So
trying
we're
to
on
figure
air.
out. Okay.
So, hey, Steve, it was great having you here. Thanks for Realtor Steve. It was great having you as my guest.
Awesome. Loved it.
All right. Yeah, and you say, thank you, Carl. You're amazing. I
Yeah.
go, yeah, I know. and then I push pause on the recording.
Okay.
Steve, that was great. Nice to see you. Give my call to action to you. Hey, man, I'd really like to work with you. Who are you working with? I can help you with. Can I count on you to give me a call?
Wow.
You sign off.
Yeah.
And now it's just me on. And now I do my real call to action. So I'd give you a call to action.
Wow.
And then once you sign off,
So just by hitting the pause.
I hit the pause. And then after you
Oh.
leave,
Okay, listen, that is a sneaky trick, bro.
after you leave,
You do your actual call to action.
then I do my call to action to my audience. So
Which
I do
is
one
what?
call to action to
To
the
me.
person doing it with me.
Ah.
And then I do another call to action to my audience once you've left. So now that you leave,
dude, this is like, boom.
Yeah.
I love this.
so now that you leave, I come in and I say, hey, and for our real estate agents that are,
if you've listened today and you found value.
no, I don't say if you found value, because
Okay.
if they didn't find value, then I don't have a call to action.
Okay.
Right. So,
Oh,
and
okay,
look, if
yeah.
if they're still listening,
Yeah,
they found value.
they did.
So I'm real, which
So you're
is-
going to assume,
which is another, I'm going to look, I just went to a concert this last weekend.
can I say why he's the number one podcast in America?
Wait.
Love
So,
it. This is great.
so I went to a concert a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Now, in that concert, toward the end of the concert, the guy doesn't say, the famous musician doesn't say, "Hey, if you found this,
He
uh,
just did, yeah.
of course you loved it.
Yeah, of course
I'm
you
great. I'm amazing." He
Yeah,
didn't say
yeah.
this,
But,
but they come up and they're, and everybody's cheering. Yeah. They go, "Hey, if you like this, you might want to buy one of my albums or one of my CDs." No, he didn't say that. He says, "Hey, go outside. The CDs are out there. See you on the next tour." Right. He assumes
it's the assumption.
it's the assumption. All right. So let me go back. So now I'm giving my
That's
call
good.
to action to my audience.
Yeah.
And so I go to my audience and I'll say, "Hey, for our real estate agent friends that are watching this, again, my name is Carl White. I work with ABC Mortgage. I do loans. Hey, look, if you're looking to close on time, get great communication during the loan process, and you ever called a loan officer and you give them a lead and you never hear back from them, I'm going to
Follow up.
I'm going to follow up on. Let me say it again.
Yeah. Close on time.
I'm going to close you on time. I'm going to give you great communication during the loan process. And I'm going to follow up on your leads like green on a pickle. So you get even more referrals going forward. I'd love to talk to you. Reach out, 555-1212, carlwhiteMortgage.com. I just made that up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure if
Yeah.
that-
Yeah. Yeah.
So Carl's a great guy, mortgage.com.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to you when you call in.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Wow.
So it's like a
that's great.
15-second.
Yeah, that's great.
And by the way, we do I close on time.
Yeah.
I
Clear.
give you great communication during the loan process. I follow up on your leads like green on a pickle. So you get even more referrals going
Mhm.
forward from those people. That's the three main complaints of real estate agents.
That's it.
So that's my call to action. So I have one call to action.
I love the pause.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Because
you don't want them to be on there and it maybe be awkward for them.
yeah,
when you're
or
doing your
awkward for me to give a call to action.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so and my call to action isn't disrespectful to them. It's just when I'm
Mhm.
interviewing you, Steve, I want you to think,
You're the
because you
most-
are.
Yeah.
You're the most important
Mhm.
while I'm doing this recording. But now that you're gone, now my audience is the most important
Hey,
person.
now I have a question. This is great for us. We're learning
Okay.
together. Do you do that on your Loan Officer Freedom when you have a guest?
100% of the time.
Really?
So at the end of the
you
episode,
just say, "Hey, it's so great to have you." Pause,
every time,
and then you let them get off, and then you just finish it.
every time.
Dude, you just gave me a hack. That's
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
because it is awkward when they're sitting there and you're doing your close.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is.
that's great.
So I log them off.
I
And,
didn't even think about that.
yeah, and then I do my
Oh.
So at the end of this
Love
podcast
this.
recording, we'll say, "Hey,
Yeah.
one thing that we do is if you'd like the complete training course
Yeah.
on how to do podcasts for loan officers, literally taught by the number one person in the industry for doing podcasts, like
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
second place is like 10%
Yeah.
of the views that I get.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just being honest,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That if you want to get the training from the best,
Yeah.
if you'll go to freedomclubdemo.com,
Mhm.
freedomclubdemo.com, we'll give you a demo coaching call that we
Yeah.
give to our Freedom Club members. And the Freedom Club members inside the membership website
Actually get all this
has the
content.
complete
Mm.
content on exactly how to do your podcast. Wait, it's even better. Hey, I'm not sure about how do you upload these and what's that lip sync? What is all that? That Nina or Chelsea in my office
Mhm.
will walk you through it
Yeah.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
Anytime you have any questions or anything, we've got a complete support team. The one that does my podcast will teach you how to do yours. And it's all included. Like you don't have to pay anything extra whatsoever.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, if you want to close more loans, that's what we help loan officers do.
Mhm.
It's just one of the ways of attracting traffic. One of the 27 different ways of attracting referrals from real estate agents
Yeah.
is doing the podcast.
I love it.
So anyway,
Hey, couple of questions, and I know our time is
Yep.
running. Let me ask you this: what do you call it?
man, that's a great. So when you call your
Don't
podcast,
get too complex.
yeah, don't get fancy.
Yeah.
Don't call it like, like let's say if I live here in the Clearwater area.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it the Clearwater Connection, or I wouldn't call it, something odd. I'd call it like Florida real estate agents.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, we learned that lesson. That you gotta. What I would encourage you to do
Is like name it exactly what it is. Right? Am I right?
100%.
Yeah. Just
don't make it confusing.
don't make it
something
confusing.
weird.
Yeah. Don't make it like I got a friend of mine. I got a friend of mine that does a podcast. It's really good. Like it's really, really good. And what he does is, or he named it something like great success.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, great success for plumbers, for lawnmower people.
It wasn't narrow enough.
Yeah. You want it so when somebody's Googling something,
Yeah.
like I would name it real estate agent marketing or real estate agent success.
Yes.
Or top producing real estate agent.
It's not a sexy name. It's an effective name to be found.
Very descriptive.
Yes, that's right.
Because that's what Google's looking for.
Mhm.
And a lot of people find our podcast through Google, or they'll be in podcast. They'll be in iTunes in the podcast section looking for, and they're going to type in real estate agent podcast. Right? So come up with something like that. So,
hey, we're going to keep going. So measure results. How do you measure results? Because I got some thoughts on that.
I measure results by how many people call in from it. Like how many real estate agents do I hear from?
Yeah.
I measure results by when I reach out to real estate agents. To set up coffee appointments, how many of them know who I am now?
Yeah.
Because what I would do is I would get a list of all the qualified agents in my area.
And the ones that matter.
Yeah. And so like there's I'll tell you another sneaky trick. If you go to qualifiedagentList.com.
Just got mine last week.
Yeah.
Updated.
Yeah.
That's a big
qualifiedagentList.com. I think you pay whatever. I think it's like, so anyway, it's whatever it is. I can't remember. If you go to qualifiedagentList.com, it'll have the price there. I don't want to take because I might be wrong. But anyway, they give you a list of a minimum of 1,000 qualified agents in your area. And these are agents that are closing, like these are the ones that are closing the deals. So they have to be closing at least 8 per year buyer sides, but some of them are closing 30 per year buyer sides. And let's say there's 1,000 of them in your area. So you get that 1,000 list, you upload it into Facebook. Yeah. And then you start running Facebook ads for
targeted Facebook ads
just to that list only,
which we show them. Where would they go if somebody wants to learn more about the Freedom Club and how?
freedomclubdemo.com.
Yeah.
We'll walk you through exactly how to do the Facebook ads to the qualified agent. So it's the only people that would see that ad would be agents that are closing like a deal a month buyer sides.
That's right.
And I would promote my podcast to those agents.
Yeah.
And for probably about, I don't know, $100 a month, maybe
I
can have it. So those 1,000 agents, you ask me, how do I measure the effectiveness of it?
Yeah.
Those 1,000 agents, when I walk into the local real estate association, brother, they know who I am. And it's not because I'm some great guy. I am a great guy, but you know what I mean? It's not because I'm Anthony Robbins or something or Tom Brady. It's they see my Facebook ads for $100 a month all the time. And I'm sending out and interviewing all these other famous, real estate agents in my area. So that's been
leading through influence.
Yeah, leading through influence.
Hey, let me say this too.
And one more thing, just before I forget.
Yeah.
If you ever want to do one solo, or if you want to ask questions, again, if you go to freedomclubdemo.com, I've got a list of, I think it's like 70 questions that I ask. Which again is available to our members. Another sneaky little trick is I would go into like Facebook group pages for real estate agents.
This is a trick you taught me.
Yeah. And I look for what are questions they're asking.
Yeah.
And which, like, if I got a question that had no comments or no,
don't
leave that. But if I see a question and then there's like 76 comments on that question, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And so I'd ask my guest that question. Hey, Bob, some people are saying open houses are dead. What's your thought on that?
I love that.
And that kind of thing.
Facebook is a great place to find the right questions.
Find the right questions.
Hey, results. I wanted to talk about this. Don't look at the number of downloads as you're getting started. Results in the beginning are the ask for the agent to be on the podcast. Your downloads will grow. So don't be distracted. Sometimes it's like, well, if I didn't get Carl, this, like in mine, I think I may have had 4,000 to 6,000 downloads my entire first year.
Yeah.
And now,
which actually would be a lot.
Well, now we get that more than that in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, it's nuts. Like,
yeah.
So don't look at downloads as results, look at impact and the ability to reach out to qualified agents.
Which by the way, your first loan that you're going to get from doing this activity is not going to be from a listener. It's going to be from the agent I'm interviewing.
Yeah. 100%.
Everybody get that? Let me say that one more time.
Do it.
Your first loan is not going to be from a listener. It's likely going to be the person that the real estate agent that you're interviewing.
Over time, it can.
Over time, it'll become
but
the
it's
listeners.
going to take time. That's
but
the time piece of
but,
that.
But you can get immediate, like you're going, Carl, I don't have 9 months for this to ramp up. Start getting loans from the people that you're interviewing right now.
100%.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're not going to follow up with those people on a phone call, don't do a podcast. You'll
Yeah.
totally be wasting your time.
The follow-up is in
the
the
follow-up-
money's in the follow-up.
And if you want to know how to follow up,
Yeah, we can help.
Did I mention freedomclubdemo.com?
No, freedom.
I don't think I meant, did we mention that? freedomclubdemo.com. We'll show you how we follow up on these agents that we meet with. Because if
Yeah.
you don't follow up, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Man,
I think we kind of covered it.
that's great.
So it's super easy.
Yeah.
There's almost no equipment. The Facebook group will give you questions.
Low barrier of entry.
Call top producing real estate agents, ask to interview them.
It's hard. I mean, they're going to say yes. They want to be.
I literally, I
yeah.
can't remember a time that I've called somebody up and asked them to be on the podcast and they say no. Like
Mhm.
literally.
It's such an honor.
Yeah. And keep in mind that these top producing real estate agents, they tend to be outgoing people anyway. Like they're
Yeah.
great marketing because that's how
Yeah.
they talk to a lot of people. That's how they sold a lot of homes.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be, well, I'm shy and I don't want to, what do I say? And what do I do? Sometimes they would say, hey, what do we talk about? And I said, I'm just going to ask you questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what kind of questions? I'm going to ask you softball questions. And I might even send them over a copy of the questions that I'm going to send over, which I'm going to pull off of a Facebook group page.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to pull them off of the Carl's questions that's in our podcast section of the Mortgage Marketing.
Love
Hour.
that.
So,
All right, brother. Good stuff.
we cover that.
I think we did.
All right. So right about this time, I would say, hey, Steve, nice having you on the episode.
I love that.
I hit pause.
I learned something.
Steve
I would leave.
leaves. Steve leaves. And then I would say, hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I really appreciate you guys. It's truly an honor to be a part of your success story. It really is. And I'm not saying that to be funny or tongue in cheek. I mean, it is. I'm just being honest. At my stage in the game that I'm at these days, I honestly do it to help people, right? Do I get paid for what I do? Of course I do. But I can tell you right now, it's more about affecting people and the legacy we leave as time goes on. That's what really the driving force to me. So it's an absolute honor to be a part of your success story and to hear the feedback of some of you that take the action items that we give you and you actually do them, to hear the success that you're having and the stories about what you and your family are able to do now because you're taking action, just really feeds my soul. So I really appreciate it. So if you haven't ever reached out and gotten a demonstration of how we've helped literally thousands and thousands of loan officers across the nation, go to freedomclubdemo.com, freedomclubdemo.com. Now is a time that you need to start taking action. Now is a time that you need to start a plan. And this time of the year is the exact time that you want to start mapping out your effective plan to put into process right away. So freedomclubdemo.com. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for reviews. Thanks for forwarding this to your friends. And we'll talk to you when you call in. Bye-bye.